one of the things is around the timelines, because time, you don't get that back and you're paying the price anyway. The other big challenge around time is if someone's hasn't paid you yet and they haven't started, there's a bit of this gray area where it's like, oh, why would I pay you and haven't started yet? But you're still following them up and asking for things. So you kind of already started the process. And if the process has started, but they haven't gone live, like they've paid you, and they might go, this hasn't happened, but these are all the things that can come up is we haven't actually run ads. Why am I paying you? So because of their like delay and lag in giving you the things you require, you're kind of already starting your consulting, but you haven't really started from their potentially from their perspective. So this is a big thing I'm working on now, and this is part of the onboarding, is just going, hey, in the next 24 hours, I need your Google Ads account, you to sign the contract, you to pay the invoice, give us your Google Tag Manager, give us access to your backend, all of these things going, I need that in the next 24 hours. Can you do that? And they'll be like, yes, I can do that. Everyone can do it. And I'm like, will you prioritize this? And in the moment, they'll say yes. You need that commitment, because if you don't, I'll say from direct experience, we've just had a client a month and a half ago that took like a month just to give us access to their Google Ads account. And we're spending like, multiple times a week or like a few times during that time following up with them. We're talking about it internally. It's just this wasted time and energy and RAM just to get basic stuff. So, Cory, what's your process or thoughts about like timeline to just getting access to accounts and like going, look, we're starting, I need this by in the next X amount of days? Or do you say that firmly, or you just go, yeah, get it to me?
Yeah, I practice what I preach on that, which is you have to have a very ironclad contract that makes it very clear about the timelines and the onboarding process.
Yep.
So, whereby if the client cannot get you that information, that's going to cost them money, because at the end of the
Yep.
day, I'm not going to be paid less because we're waiting months and months and months and we're getting unsatisfactory results because we're waiting. It's very clear that we have these couple of weeks to restructure if necessary, do the research that's necessary, the analytics that's necessary, plug you into the systems, etc. within this period. Is the sooner you can get this to us, the better we can analyze, right? The better
Yep.
results and the quicker we can start getting new tests up into the account. So not only emphasizing the fact that you're paying me because you want better performance in some form or fashion. The quicker you can get that to me, the quicker I can start doing a better job of getting us to that point of success that you are hiring me for, what you're paying me for. But at the end of the day, in the contract, it's going to be very clear that this is what I would usually advise, that, look, we have this amount of days, it was 10 to 14 days, whatever it is, to do the onboarding, to do the initial audit, whatever it is, do the deep dives that are necessary. You need to get me the data as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm going to be just doing what I can with the available access and data that I have.
Yep.
And that's probably going to be substandard, and you're not going to want that. You're paying me too much to have me work with substandard data. So I feel like it sort of naturally incentivizes them, because money does usually move the needle in this business. So that's how I usually look at it. Yep.
Nice, man. Yeah, it's an interesting approach, because every business is different, being clients, and every agency is different with their onboarding processes, what's required and what's needed. And that's why once again, I said we self-reflect and go, where are the pain points, and using that as a starting point rather than going, what's the best idealistic way to do it? It's like, where do we constantly come up against a wall? Because a lot of clients are doing this for the first time, or like, I've only done it once or twice. They don't know what the rules are or what we even expect. So unless we tell them, they won't know. They won't know. So it first comes with like clear communication of going, we need these things from you by this date, and we're going to start the billing on this date, or we've already started the billing. By doing this, we get to actually get you results faster and do the work faster. So like, we're not in idle mode.
Yeah,
I think it starts with communication first. Sorry, go on.
Yes. No, I was just going to say, I think really important there is we have to, as service providers, you have to, if you're expected or you're offering to do more, in other words, you don't want to wait for them to create systems or plug things in or create integrations, then you need to, if you're willing to offer that, you need to charge extra,
Yeah.
because, and that needs to be in the scope, clear in the scope of work, what you do, what you don't do. That needs to be ironclad and really, really clear from the outset. Even before they sign, you need to be getting on the same page in terms of scope and expectations for performance, et cetera, and timelines. But I also think a big part of that is you're making clear that this is what I'm charging for. If you are also needing me to do and create ETL pipelines and sophisticated data integrations or data cleanup and transformation, whatever, that's a high ticket thing you're asking. Therefore, as an
Yeah.
agency, you just need to charge more for that, because it is
Yeah.
additional services that rarely a marketing agency is going to offer unless they have an
Yeah.
in-house person, and even then they're in a really upcharge for that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's one of my gaps is I spend a lot of time doing custom reporting for clients, like dynamic custom reporting. And it gets to the point where I can guarantee you they won't get it anywhere else. Like they actually won't, maybe with you. But even we do it differently from how you would do it. And it kind of ends up being like that's the main service because the advertising's going so well. But just because the advertising's going so well doesn't mean that this additional service that's bringing the transparency of the data is just included. So I think that's a really important thing is onboard, like from scoping and like seeing if the client's the right fit from onboarding. It's constantly reminding them of the expectations, setting the expectations of how we work together, and then most importantly, managing those expectations so that as time goes on, like, oh, Cory, can you just quickly do this for us? And you're like, for sure, we'll put a scope of work together for that. And they'd be like, oh, okay, why are we doing that? Well, it's not included in this current scope, as we've mentioned in the past, because sometimes it's so easy to just go, oh, it's this one time. I'll just help them out. And that's what happens. It's usually a scope creep that kills agencies. I reckon about 60 to 70% of the work we do is just out of scope work, purely just because like we're helpful. But that's harming my company. That's why I'm doing this onboarding stuff. That's where the pain came from. I'm like, where has been the gap that we've ended up to this place where we're doing all this additional work, which is so valuable and moving the needle, but we're not being paid for it, as in this. Sorry,
I was just going to say, if people are the personality types to be more people pleasers, I think this can be really challenging for them, right? It's a unique challenge where they say, man, should I ask for more money? I feel like they're already paying me so much and blah, blah, blah. But look, simplify it. And this is not about greed here. This is maybe for Michael.
Scrooge McDuck here.
I figured you'd jump in and say it before I got it. But like, think of it just like a general contract. If you want someone to build a house for you, they are going to very clearly define what you want, because the last thing they want is to build a house that you don't want to live in, right? So the first thing they're going to do is scope out that project. What exactly are the room sizes? How big does the back patio need to be? Are you sure you want that style of a roof? Whatever. That's what we do. We do the same thing. We need to be very clear about the scope. And you know what? Again, it's not greed. Sometimes you get started with the project and the homeowner, the prospective homeowner, they change their mind. They see, you know what? That isn't really what I wanted. That's okay. That's fair. That's as service providers, we go into it anticipating sometimes what you thought you wanted isn't really what you want. Maybe that's a KPI. Maybe that's the style of reporting. Maybe you start adding tools, right, to your tech stack, and now we want to get that integrated. That's a totally fair request. However, that is in addition to the scope you've already agreed to. Here's the problem. Most agencies don't clearly define the scope of work. The agent, or the client rather, sees you as just an agency that will do whatever and whatever possible at the agreed upon price to make sure that our marketing is as great as possible. But as a client, as a business, you need to respect the fact that they are a service provider, probably providing this for multiple businesses, and their time is the most valuable thing, just like every other human on this planet ever. You can't just expect them to constantly add more without charging more. They're doing more work. You're adding complexity to the process. Thereby, don't be surprised if that service provider comes back, this general contractor, and says, "Look, sure, we can change the roof or we can make it a bigger house, but I am going to have to now pay more in resource costs and man hours. That's going to cost more. I'm not going to eat the cost because you couldn't make up or you weren't sure about what you needed to begin with. That's fair. That's not greed. It's just fair."
Yeah, well, it's just adjusting the scope because when the Requirements have changed. The scope should change. It's like it's cause and effect. Now, as you're saying this, Corey, I can say these wise words, but man, you're hitting me in the feels right now because I think the challenge is when you're a helpful person and you make a lot of money, you're like, oh, I'm just helping out a bit more. But it's like that is a disservice to everyone. It's a disservice to you because then you're taking on more work and you can't serve as many clients because then your time's bloated doing stuff. And I've got a lot of clients who I've gone, look, yeah, man, like that's going to cost you more. And then they don't go ahead with it. And I'm like, fuck, if it was so important, you'd pay for it. But if you don't want it, if you don't want to pay for it, I get it. Because that's the thing. Sometimes businesses are strapped for cash and you're like, fuck, this would really help them out. But at the end of the day, they ain't paying. This isn't charity. This isn't Corey's Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is cold, hard capitalism. Ruthless.
Capitalism. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, in an ideal world, everything would be free and we would not have to have any worries of health concerns or whatever. But look, we can't live in the ideal. It is what it is. You're asking someone to use their most valuable resource to help you out. And if you're not willing to pay for that, well, then you got to do it yourself and or pay someone else modestly. And I wouldn't expect very high value from that person, let's just say. So, yeah, those are kind of your options.